Welcome back to the middle of the week, and therefore it is Ask Lee Wednesday. So, if you have any questions that you would like me to answer in this segment, then please leave them in the comments below to one of the Ask Lee videos, and I will add it to the queue. If you are listening on the podcast, you can go and leave a voice note. You can go to anchor.fm/Lee W. Johnson still. It will redirect you to their new link. Alright, so today let's see if we can get through two questions from LK and Alchemy Lover. Welcome to my channel. You are entering the world of magic and mysticism with your host, Lee W. Johnson. Keep the lights on and help improve the channel by becoming a supporter for just $2.99 per month. Hit the join button. Right, straight into it. The first question is from LK. Here's a subject for another video. What are your thoughts regarding magic, regarding utilizing a deity and magic performed without? Can non-deity magic, witchcraft, be just as powerful? Yes, it can, absolutely. What you'll probably find here is a different approach that people have to their practice and to their spiritual and even religious practice. Some people don't work with gods and goddesses or deities or spirits of any kind. They purely rely on their own abilities and the energy which is around them. It isn't necessarily atheistic, but quite often it is. But somebody could still believe in all of the spirits, they just don't work with them. Whereas another person may be completely reliant on the spirits. They may feel that they do not have the power within them, that the power comes from the gods and the goddesses. So this all relies heavily on a person's own beliefs and their own practice. But is one more powerful or stronger or better than the other? No. You can do magic just as well with or without the deity. And I do find personally that I do often like to borrow the energy of particular spirits and put that into the magic itself. But I mean, you can look at chaos magic, probably the easiest example with sigil magic and servitor work. You don't work with spirits at all. It's purely a creation of your own self. Sigils are purely working with symbolic language, which is then passed into the unconscious mind in order for it to do its job. Servitor work is the creation of an entity which is usually, not usually, actually I'm not going to say usually, everybody's different, but in some forms the energy which creates that servitor is from the magician themselves. It's their own personal power, their own personal energy. In other cases, you could be pulling the energy from the elements. In some cases, you could be pulling the energy in from deity, or from other spirits, from demons, from whichever spirit you actually work with personally. So it does become a very personal thing. If you are somebody who does not work with spirits, then you would use your own personal energy. If you are somebody who focuses heavily on the elements, then you would probably work with the elements in order to take that energy and add it into the servitor. If you are somebody who works with deities a lot, you'll probably aspect a deity to lend their energy to the working itself. And this then follows through to all forms of spell work. You may, if you are somebody who works with gods and goddesses, you may aspect them to just be present while you're doing the spell working, but that presence alone lends their energy to the working. But yeah, it really does boil down to that. It boils down to your own personal approach to the practice itself. Coming back to it, is somebody who does magic without the help of the deities doing something which is lesser than those who are working with the deities? Absolutely not. We're working with energy, and energy is abundant everywhere, and the deities themselves are energy. And so in that case, what we would be doing is calling on a particular deity, a particular god or goddess, demon, angel, whatever it is, and we would be borrowing or lending or asking for a portion of their energy and putting it into the spell working. If we do not work with the deities, we would be doing exactly the same thing, but we would be working with our own energy. So we would be building up energy to an excess. We would be raising that energy, and then we would be using that excess energy to put into the work. So it is exactly the same process. It's just that the energy is coming from a different place. It's coming from yourself, or it's coming from a spirit, or it's coming from the elements. It's exactly the same thing, and therefore it has exactly the same result. Whether it is more powerful only depends on the ability of the person doing the spell working or the magic. And that can also differ from time to time. You know, even people who do have success with magic have moments where things just don't work. It could be that they are just, their heart's not in it, therefore they don't have the right passion, they don't have the will to actually do it, and therefore it's going to bomb out. It could be planetary alignments, it could be the moon is void of course when they did the work. It could be many things that stop the actual working from progressing. But as far as working with yourself or working with an energy from somewhere else, it's all energy, and therefore it can all be used in the same manner. All right. I think I went on and on about that a bit too much actually. So I think that answers that question. So we'll go on to Alchemy Lover's question. In your opinion, can it get confusing or maybe too much if you have a number of deities or demons you work with and venerate daily on your altar? It can. And I'm going to come back to the previous question and say it depends on your own personal approach to this and your own personal beliefs. As an example, if you are practicing in a fashion which could be considered Hindu, there is the belief that, it's very much the belief that all gods are one god, all goddesses are one goddess, coming back to Wicca and Your Own Fortune. But you know, the approach often is you can worship one deity, so you may just worship Shiva, but with that worship of Shiva, you are worshipping all of the gods and goddesses at the same time. So you don't have to have multiple deities on your altar, although they often do. But if you are focused on worship of one deity, you are therefore worshipping all of them at that time, at that same time. For somebody who is hard polytheist, that's going to differ. So, you know, in that case, it may become difficult because you have multiple deities on your altar, and you feel you have to honor them and give them reverence individually. In a case like that, you may give an overall offering. So you may have 3 or 4 deities on your altar, and you sit down each day and you give one offering to all of them. So it's kind of a shared offering. I don't think it's necessary to give them reverence individually. If they're all in the same space, if they're all in the same house, if they're all in the same yeah, I'm going to stick to house as a metaphor. If you invite them to your house, you may want to sit them down at the dinner table, and you may want to serve them individually, but they all get the same meal. Okay, so in an altar situation, you would give them one meal, and they would then share the meal. So in that individual circumstance where we're all sitting down at the table, there's one big pot of food, but you're just dishing it out on different plates. So they're all sharing the same meal at the end of the day. So in the altar situation, one bowl of food or one offering, whatever it may be, and they all share from that source. And coming back to the individual sitting down at your dinner table, this source would be the one big bowl of food. Okay. Not sure if that got confusing or not. It kind of made sense in my head. So hang on, I just want to go back to the question just in case I've missed something. If you have a number of deities or demons you work with and venerate daily on your altar. Yeah, so it depends on your approach, it really does. You know, and if you do have multiple deities on your altar, you, as a daily offering, it would be that one offering. But at specific times, you may want to focus on one particular deity. And therefore, each day you can give the general offering, but then you may just talk to or chant the N or the mantra for that particular deity. You may recite poetry for that deity. So for a period of time, and it may be because the energy which that deity lends to you is something you need at that time. It may be that the particular time of the year is particularly auspicious to that deity. So, you know, you may want to focus on the one deity for a period of time, and then you'll move on to focus on a different deity for another period of time. It's not a case of every single day you have to spend 15 minutes with this one and 15 minutes with that one and 15 minutes with that one, and, you know, etc., which takes up 3 or 4 hours. It's not really the case. So, you know, and if you are focusing on one particular deity, the others aren't going to get jealous and upset with you. They're just going to stick around and just, you know, have some of the food and wait for you to finish, and then you'll come over to them. So yeah, I think I'm actually rambling today. So it can be confusing, but it doesn't have to be. And it all depends on your particular approach to it. Okay. If, however, you do have like 20 or 30 different demons and or deities that you are trying to worship all at the same time, that can get a bit confusing. You know, usually we have a set amount. We have particular deities that we find guide us throughout our entire life. And that may be 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. And we focus on them on a lifetime basis. But, you know, for particular things that we need doing, particular things we need help with, we may just call on a different deity or a different demon to help us with that at that time. It doesn't mean that they form part of our altar just because we work with them. It's a working relationship. So we do have those working relationships, and then we have the honor and dedication, devotion type of relationships. So different relationships call for different things. And those ones that are on your altar are the ones that you are devoted to, and that's usually over a lifetime. All right. So hopefully that answers your question. And I'll see you next week for another Ask Lee. Okay, cheers for now. Bye-bye.